Well, you probably aren't aware that I've done a whole load of big textural works on London when I was doing the resin art series. I've still got a couple of those in stock. But I've decided at the moment to continue with the heavy body acrylics. And one of the ones I wanted to try was this rather fun one of the scene over the Thames at night. And I'm just trying to work out how I'm going to do it, because really I should have put the ground on first and then drawn over the top. I haven't. And I want to try and link some of my techniques together as well. So I'm going to go over with Indian ink over the drawing now, and I've sketched it out, and then use the roller over the top to get the underpainting, and then work up with my brushes afterwards when I know where everything is. See how that works. Again, it's new experiments, but the Indian ink should show through ordinary thinner acrylic, and then I'm going to use a heavy body acrylic on top afterwards. See if it works, shall we? Before I do that, I'll just show you a few of those earlier resin ones, quite bright in colour, playing around with the computer, building up with textures and then working the acrylics over the top, and then finally the resins. But this is quite different because, as I say, we won't be using the resin and we're not going to use the texture. Well, I was going to finish this drawing off by using Indian ink and brush, but actually let's just go more modern and try out a marker pen, because so I'm not afraid of being able to cover over this with the heavy body. And I should be able to still see these lines through a medium acrylic. All I want to be able to do. I just want to see where my drawing is though, that's the point. So that comes around there. So I'm just going to go over all of these pencil marks with a pen until I've got my outlines, and then I'll work over with the roller and paint. Now, onto our experiments again with heavy-bodied paints, but in this case I'm going back to using my thinner ordinary bodies just at the beginning. I'm going to mix up with the roller and try and see if these ordinary paints are transparent enough to let these dark lines show through. I want to do the blue backgrounds of this and then work up afterwards. I don't want to draw the details in like a photograph. So that's what we're going to do. We'll have to start on some of these mid-blues Take a nice heavy brush again. Yes, I think those colours are going to show through. Look, we can see them underneath. That's alright. So if I thin these down a bit, hopefully they'll be transparent enough for me to still see my design work underneath. And I can go over this and get darker and so on later with purples and so on, can't I? So it could be the way to go. I've got to experiment and explore. I don't want to make my paint too transparent with fillers. I'm just trying to use the ordinary paints as they are, without thinning them down with any other liquids, although I do want to explore some of the other mediums later. Right through here. We'll cover the whole picture up, so I'll come back to you when I've got this covered over, okay? We can also start to get some of the vertical effects, even for the water, even now, by starting to add vertical marks in with the roller itself. You can see how the drawing is showing through, so it's using the problems we've had to our best effect. In other words, if the paint's been a bit transparent, we can now use it for that advantage and actually still lose this very dark drawing behind. Well, there we go, another way that we've invented through necessity. I was going to use Indian ink to do the drawings, and I thought, well, why? There's much more simple, modern materials. I've used a permanent marker, black marker pen to go underneath, and with these layers of colour on top, it just disappears nicely into the background. Or I could do the whole painting this way, but at the moment we're just going to experiment and explore. Just get the background glowing through here. As I put these darker colours on, I'm starting to lose some of my drawing, so I've got to be a little bit more careful. And I'll be able to go back to my heavy body colours, won't I? So that leaves me enough to be able to start working my painting up soon. What I'll do is just take a bit of the blacks now, a bit of the very darks, and just work some of those into the very deep shadowed areas where I know I'm going to need it very dark, and I don't worry about the drawing at the moment because I can just lose those into this. I think we're nearly there for the background. And we'll let that dry off, and hopefully now start to come back to my brushes and heavier colours and build this up. Well, I think that was fairly successful. The light shining through slightly from behind today, but we'll have a go at it. You can see how the dark lines almost disappeared behind the blue, but just enough for me to still see what's happening. It gives quite a nice abstract effect actually. Could be a useful way of doing a more commercial picture at some stage. So what I want to do now then is start working up these darks again, and then come through my mid-tones gradually forward, working lighter and lighter and lighter up to the very final lights and highlights along the streets and in the buildings and so on. Using the heavy body, using the flat brushes nearly all the time. So let's see how we get on with that. It's quite an unusual one to do, it's a different one for me to do. I don't really see there's much point in my talking you through this, because it's just a matter of mixing various colours and placing them into shapes. So I may well do some high-speed filming of this and move it on a bit so you can see the whole thing being created, rather than telling you every colour that I'm mixing up. Because I'm going to work from cools to warms here as well, so working from darks to lights and through the various cools and blue pinks and so on, warm and cool cools, right through then to my eventual creams and yellows and highlights and pinks. So the colours are going to be fairly straightforward, I think. You know the palette I'm using already, it's this one. So you can see all the colours I'm going to be working through here, from the darks right the way through to all these lights. So there we go, on we go. Let's take a bit of black first of all, with a little bit of dark, and start to work in some of these, a little bit of blue, start to work in some of these darker areas here which are shining through at the moment. And I want to do it quite a bit darker. I'm not absolutely certain, but I think I could be there with this one. Light strong behind it, but we'll see if we can photograph it for you. Let's have a closer look at it, shall we? See how it was produced. Just building up all of those background colours first. The darks and then the medium tones, working right through to my lights. And gradually getting lighter and lighter and lighter until the very highlights and the whites at the end. Which is exactly what we've been saying about doing this technique with the heavy body acrylics. And I've used heavy body here, but I haven't used them very thickly. On the other hand, they do seem to have remained fairly constant, don't they? I mean, I think they've remained fairly heavy and heavy bodied as we expected. So I hope you enjoyed this painting, and I move on to my next one.